The thing about these live action adaptations of beloved animated projects is that there isn't a single example of one actually elevating the source material, of one actually adding more nuance or thematic significance or presenting the subject matter in an actually more mature manner. I don't mean, adding graphic violence or explicitly mature subject matter. I think that that is its own kind of pandering. That is its own kind of saying, oh, well, this is how you know this is for adults. You were watching a kid's show before, but now this is for grown-ups. But the irony is, while they will often add those elements to specifically market as something mature and for grown-ups, it often comes at the expense of cutting and changing the story to adapt to it that ultimately diminishes and simplifies the story to something far less complex than the original version. Now, this isn't in reference to any one thing specifically. I haven't seen the newest live action adaptation that everyone is talking about right now. I'm not specifically talking about that. This is a general statement, trends that I have noticed. And with general statements, there will always be exceptions. But this is a trend that I notice that frustrates me because as someone who loves the medium of animation and thinks that it's incredible and has seen incredible artists like Charlie Kaufman and Richard Linklater and Salvador Dali do crazy things. I mean, I honestly think that the medium of animation is the best medium for things like sci-fi and fantasy and surrealist high concept storytelling because you can do things that you wouldn't be able to do with any other medium. It's just every time they announce one of these things, it's like the conversation is like congratulatory, like, oh, it's moving up a weight class. It's like nothing could be better than having a live action adaptation, like the pinnacle of artistic expression, live action filmmaking. I just feel like it's so dismissive to the original, and it's also just bullshit, like I feel like the reaction should be to every single one of these announcements the same as like when they announce an American remake to a fantastic foreign film. Like we should understand from the jump that this is probably going to be worse, probably going to be outright bad. And occasionally, maybe we'll get something like Let Me In or The Departed, which stands apart and is worth being there. Not necessarily better than the original, but worth the remake. Will we get there with animation though? I don't know. I can't think of anything that I would think is remotely improved. Okay, we need to have a serious talk because somehow this movie is now the highest grossing rom-com in the post-COVID era. And people are talking about how because it was so successful at the box office, it's going to usher in a rom-com renaissance. Glenn Powell said that he and Sydney Sweeney are actively looking for projects together to pair up on again. And I just really need to make it clear, if we are going to have a rom-com renaissance, please, for the love of God, do not make this the blueprint. I finally saw this movie, and even though I had reservations about the trailers, was genuinely a little optimistic because I'd heard some good things, and because of the box office, I cannot believe how mediocre this film is. I found it bland and boring and predictable and convoluted and contrived in not cute rom-com ways, but in shoddily put together, no one has chemistry, let alone these two, on screen kind of way. I don't understand why the takeaway from this would be, well, we definitely need to put these two together again, and not audiences are clearly desperate for rom-coms. No matter what form they take, let's make more and try to make them better. And I'm glad that people got something out of this. I'm really glad that it means that we might get more theatrical release rom-coms. But there are so many great modern rom-coms that are so underappreciated that didn't get this kind of reception. And if you want recommendations of actually good modern rom-coms, in my humble opinion, this is my list. I know I'm stretching the definition of modern a little bit here. 2013, it's over 10 years old, but come on, what has really changed? Also, it has Daniel Radcliffe in it. Okay, it's timeless. Daniel Radcliffe, who I'm convinced at this point has chemistry with everyone, plays Wallace, who meets Chantry at a party and they have instant chemistry. And then he finds out she has a long-term live-in boyfriend, and like they kind of pine for each other the whole time. It's a will they, won't they. It's awesome. It's wonderful. It's adorable. You should watch it. I'm obsessed with Sleeping with Other People from director Leslie Headland. I think it's everything a modern rom-com should be. It's very self-aware, but it's also very unapologetically romantic, leans into tropes, but it's about people who don't fit like romantic stereotypes. It's about two serial cheaters who meet and decide that they should not form a romantic relationship because they're self-aware and know themselves, so they decide to become friends instead. But there's obviously a lot of chemistry because Alison Brie and Jason Sudeikis are hot people who have great chemistry. It's really fun to watch. There's a great cast of supporting characters. I love this movie. I will sing the praises of Plus One until the end of time. I love this movie. I do love the cast, Maya Erskine and Jack Quaid. They're amazing, and they, again, have wonderful natural chemistry, but they play friends who have a lot of mutual friends who are getting married. There's a lot of marriages happening over the course of the summer, and Maya Erskine gets dumped, and she's heartbroken. So in order to console each other, they decide to be each other's plus one for all of the weddings they have to go to over the course of this summer. And things get romantic, things get complicated. It's wonderful. It's like really self-aware. I feel like it depicts modern love in a way that isn't trying too hard, but just feels like a natural progression of where rom-coms are supposed to go. More people need to see Obvious Child. Jenny Slate is amazing. Gillian Robespierre is super talented. This film is really fun. It's about a casual encounter that results in an unplanned pregnancy, and the way that they have to deal with that is really realistic. They also, again, there's just perfect, wonderful chemistry in this, and who doesn't love Jenny Slate? This movie is an absolute recommend. Finally, Fire Island, which is one of my favorite rom-coms ever, directed by Andrew Ahn. It's like a queer retelling of Pride and Prejudice. This movie is so fucking funny. It's so funny, but it's also genuinely like sexy and romantic. And again, chemistry for days. And listen, I know what you're thinking. People love Fire Island. Yes, but it was released on Hulu. It was dumped on Hulu. It didn't get quite the reception it deserves. It does have a loyal following online. And if you've seen all these movies, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. But they are underappreciated. You can see that in just the sheer amount of Letterboxd reviews, which is not nearly as high as a lot of other recent rom-coms. All of these movies are wonderful and fantastic, and I am here for the rom-com renaissance. I just would love it if the movies were also good. So there's my suggestions. If you want to know more about like what my specific gripe is with this movie and like what I think the deal is with modern rom-coms in general, the newest episode of my podcast, which is coming out tomorrow, The Broad Perspective, is all about Anyone But You and modern rom-coms, so you can listen tomorrow. So the conversation about whether or not Paul Atreides fits into the white savior trope in Dune actually highlights like my biggest criticism of the film, which is not that Paul is a white savior, because the text is very obviously and intentionally criticizing the white savior trope and imperialism and colonialism in general. It's like very anti all of those things. And while I absolutely love Dune Part 2, I've seen it twice now and it's blown my mind both times, I do have some criticisms of the film, and I ironically think that they were intentional choices to prevent audiences from sympathizing with and idolizing this character. Both Dune films are highly atmospheric, and they have this heavy, brutalist ominousness that's very intentional and very unsettling on purpose. It serves the purpose of the narrative. Every single technical element of filmmaking here is intentionally reinforcing to the audience that this is not a story with a happy ending. This is not a character worth rooting for, and there is no comfort or safety to be found here. And while I think that like that is a masterful way of communicating the themes of the story, I kind of resent that it has to be so overt, because I think the weakest element of Dune Part 2 is the love story. Because the themes that are on display in this movie, namely that Paul is not a hero and that the entire idea of hero worship is actually destructive, are so blatant that there was never any point when I genuinely thought that Paul would turn away from his destiny, that he was so invested in his relationship with Chani that he would do the right thing. There was never a moment that I even considered that. And I think part of that is due to the narrative choices of Villeneuve, like skipping ahead a little bit at the beginning to skip over a lot of his training and his acclimation to Freeman culture. And I think that makes sense because there's so much ground to cover. But I think when you look at it as a love story, you're also skipping over the entirety of the early days of his and Chani's courtship. Because in Part 1, we see him having visions of her. Like, there are reasons to understand why he's obsessed with her from the beginning. But when we meet Chani, she's incredibly skeptical and distrusting of outsiders, and she hates the concept of this prophecy. But seemingly inexplicably, she's endeared to him and has a soft spot for him and seems to just like his vibe from the jump, which I don't really think makes sense for the way her character evolves into an intensely strong, like dissident in this idea of like him being a messiah. Like, there were so few moments of actual romance between the two of them that I found myself believing their love story most when they weren't acting off each other, like in moments when they were speaking to other people about Paul or Chani respectively. And I genuinely think that the love story between Jessica and Duke Leto in Part 1 is a lot stronger and like more believable than the love story between Chani and Paul in this movie. Now, admittedly, I know there are larger themes at play, but I'm just saying again that I think that Paul's turn would have felt a lot more personal and a lot more emotionally resonant if we had this connection to Chani feeling like a genuine, like real love story of the ages. The thing is, though, I do think that this might have been an intentional choice because of the way audiences have historically reacted to characters like Anakin Skywalker, who commits more horrific atrocities on screen than we've seen Paul do, but because he's shown to be capable of true love and human empathy, people really want him to be the hero. And when he was alive, Frank Herbert talked about the way that some people misinterpreted his work and interpreted Paul as the hero and how frustrating that was. Alan Moore has had similar conversations about like Watchmen, about how it's how annoyed he is by the people who don't understand that the entire narrative is about how power corrupts and the Watchmen are not heroes. But it makes me genuinely curious about the longevity of series like this, because I think that the hype train for Dune Part 2 is reaching past the point of hyperbole now. Like, I do think it's amazing. I think it's incredible. But I think we've already gotten to the point in the first weekend where people are basically saying it's the greatest film ever made. It's not only as good as Two Towers and Empire Strikes Back, but it's better. But I think that what those two franchises had that this one didn't are likable, lovable characters that you want to root for. Because on my second watch through, I really did notice like the lack of emotional connection to the characters on screen. And while I think this film is incredible, and it's a totally different beast when you're telling a story that first and foremost serves as a cautionary tale about someone who commits horrific atrocities, than it is when you're telling a story about endearing, lovable characters who are, you know, fighting the ultimate evil. I think really a big reason why stories like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars have stayed so culturally relevant is because of the way the characters have endeared themselves to audiences, because people love these characters so much. And if in a story like Dune, you don't have those kinds of relationships with the characters, I wonder what the longevity is going to be. That said, again, I love this movie. I think it's incredible. I definitely do think it's one of the most impressive feats of filmmaking, like, of all time. And I really hope Villeneuve gets to make Messiah, because I think that what he's doing with these stories is really incredible. I just genuinely, I think that I wish that I could connect more. And I think that's why I prefer the first one, because there is a little bit more sentimentality and emotional connection between the characters and between the audience and the characters. Love Lies Bleeding is now officially the best movie I've seen in theaters this year. Yeah, that's right. Suck it, Dune 2. But it's also the movie that's made me the most excited about the future of the film industry since Nope. To be fair, yes, this film does feel like a super amalgamation of all of my favorite things and niche interests. It has Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien being super hot and gay together. It's incredibly romantic. It has elements of horror. It is graphically and viscerally violent while actually having the violence serve a meaningful and artistic purpose in the narrative. It's darkly comedic. It verges into surrealism. It's both very disturbing and very, very fun. And it's written and directed by Rose Glass, whose debut film Saint Maud was one of my absolute favorites of 2020. So yeah, this has been one of my most anticipated for a while. There is just so much great to say about this film. Like, first of all, everyone in the cast is outstanding. Katie O'Brien and Kristen Stewart have incredible chemistry. Anya Baryshnikov and Jenna Malone and Ed Helms and Dave Franco are all such fascinating and well executed characters. And second films are notoriously difficult to pull off. You are really establishing your voice as a director, your style, your tone, your creative vision. And a lot of times it can come off as a cheap imitation of your influences, or it can feel too bland. What Rose Glass accomplishes here is so incredible, because you can absolutely see her influences on screen. I at times was reminded of films like Requiem for a Dream and Mandy. Like, it's very Lynchian and it has like a little bit of Cronenberg. There's definitely Coen brothers. Instead of feeling like a copy, this film intricately and expertly weaves all of these different references together to create something completely and stunningly brand new. This film just so strongly affirms that Rose Glass is one of the truly unique voices rising in this industry right now, and she has such a distinct personal style that is so recognizable, and it feels like she's definitely going to be one of the directors of the future that has a huge impact on the future of filmmaking. Like, I'm so unbelievably impressed. I absolutely adored this film. It gave me everything I was looking for and more. Bottom line is, I absolutely love this movie. Go see it, go enjoy it, go love it. And I get passionate about this kind of thing. I get accused of being hyperbolic a lot. The thing is, of course I get passionate about this stuff. I talk about movies all day, every day for a living, okay? I think movies can change your life, just don't expect them to. But maybe this one will. I gotta be honest, the recent wave of Poor Things discourse is super discouraging to see. And like, I've been increasingly feeling for a while now, like, less motivated to talk about films or stories that are thematically complex on here for a while now, because of how quickly the conversation devolves into this black and white morality thunderdome of like problematic and not problematic. And I know we throw around the term media literacy a lot on this app. I know it's become like a de facto insult, you know, oh, you didn't like Poor Things, you have no media literacy. The thing is, obviously, there are people who are going to watch Poor Things, understand what it's trying to do, and it's not going to work for them. Like, there are going to be methods of storytelling that are not effective for some people. I personally don't really ever enjoy the rape revenge genre, but it's still something that I can engage critically with and understand that perspective and tone and the way the film or the book or whatever media engages with the themes matters, you know? And so I think it's one thing to say, this triggered me, I can't engage with it, versus this is inherently gross and problematic. I think it stems from like a foundational unwillingness that a lot of people have to critically or meaningfully engage with any art that makes them feel uncomfortable. And that, I think, is objectively really fucking bad for art and for our society. There is a very strong argument to be made that the most important and meaningful art that exists is art that makes us uncomfortable. Like, it's all well and good to go see a movie that leaves you with warm, fuzzy feelings. That's a wonderful experience to have. But if we want to make art that is going to be able to move the needle of public perception, that's going to be able to challenge our politics and our worldviews and genuinely have a meaningful impact, especially, when it comes to living under patriarchy or any other form of marginalization, it's going to come from a place of discomfort. Like that's just a fact. And it just feels like internet culture is so permeated right now by like puritanical anti-sex ideology and anti-intellectualism and this like morality competition, this like moral posturing of who's going to be the most moral. I watched this movie through my most pure moral lens, and I can tell you that it is bad because it depicts bad things, and I know that they're bad. Like, that's just such a surface level way to engage with art that I just don't think is ever going to be productive, especially when we're talking about art that is very intentionally non-literal, that is surrealist, absurdist sci-fi. Like, this is not meant to have one-to-one comparisons with the real world, and that's for very intentional, conscientious reasons. Like, the character of Bella Baxter, yes, is meant to portray the way that young women are hypersexualized from a very young age, but it's also meant to talk about how adult women are infantilized. Bella is depicted as being in control of her own sexuality. She is also simultaneously being exploited and marginalized by every man in her life. That reflects the complex realities and a lot of times conflicting emotions and feelings that go along with being a woman living under patriarchy. And again, the execution might not work for you, but this is a lot of times why storytellers reach into places like sci-fi and fantasy to recontextualize harsh and brutal and uncomfortable realities from our world for a narrative purpose. It's just, when we talk about a lack of media literacy, I think it's important to remember that it's not disagreements. It's not, you didn't think it worked and I did. It's that people are unwilling to talk about the efficacy or like the execution or the perspective or any of the technical elements of the storytelling. It's just, this depicted something that I think is gross and I'm not okay with that. And that is the problem. Because telling stories about bad experiences and bad things and bad people is important. And the way we do it is important. And telling stories that depict the complex emotions that a lot of times we feel around bad things that happen to us. Furthermore, like, the way we talk about women in their involvement in telling these stories and the characters in these stories, I feel like it's often very infantilizing and very diminishing and takes away their agency. When we talk about, oh, well, Poor Things is so clearly written and directed by a man, it completely strips away the fact that Emma Stone was an executive producer, pushed for, championed, and carefully crafted this character with Yorgos. And it's super important to her. Like, we complain about the simplicity and the reductive nature of a strong female character stereotype, but when we're presented with nuance, a lot of times this is the response, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating. So I don't know.
Who is making these celebrities merch, and why are they all ugly? Why are they all ugly? Some of them will have the best style, and then the merch is still ugly. Who is designing the merch? I have so many ideas. Every time I see any celebrity, I could design your entire merch. Pay me. Those people you're paying, they don't deserve that, girl. For example, Olivia Rodrigo, Sour Tour merch, why was there no butterfly top? Why was there no butterfly top? I'm serious. Like something like this, but like make it purple instead. You wouldn't even have to put a logo on this. Like, it would be so recognizable. Like, the Guts Store merch is better, but it's a lot of people. Harry, oh my God. His merch is so bad. Like, I went to Love on Tour like 2 years ago. What year are we in? I don't know. It was a while ago. Maybe 3. Girl, I don't know. And the best thing, I always try to get one thing at concerts, just as like a keepsake or whatever. I got the Harry is my friend hat. That one's cute. That one's actually cute. All the shirts were hideous. All the shirts were so bad. I liked the tote bag, but they ran out of the tote bag because that one was actually good. But the only thing that I could get that I was like, this is kind of not the worst, was it's like a black t-shirt and it's black and green, and it has it's literally just Harry's face on it. People make better things than that and sell them on Etsy because they're not making good merch. And like, so the concert that I went to was still like fine line era. Pink and blue is such a cool color scheme and they didn't use it. Like, I think the problem is the merch always, they try to hit you over the head with the artist. I would have taken like a tank top, like a plain black tank top that had the words "Do you know who you are" written on it from Lights Up. I think that would have been cool. I think it would have been extra cute if they did like a charm bracelet. Like you could have had a cherry one, a watermelon, like a little sun for golden. You could have done so many things. Y'all are not seeing the vision. Like Sabrina Carpenter, do you know what would have been perfect merch for her album that came out? A little bag. It's like a little like kind of clutch purse, but it's shaped like a letter, and then the opening is like a heart. That shit would have been so fucking cute. That would have been so cute. Hire me, guys. I'm serious. No, literally, because I hate when they do this. Okay, this is more of me talking about how basically all celebrity merch is bad. Because why do they always... I say this as somebody who owns 2 t-shirts that's just like an artist's face on it. Because it was the least ugly thing that I could get at a concert. I hate when they're like, oh yeah, this is tour merch. And it's just like the most basic t-shirt you've ever seen with the fucking album cover on it. Or like just the artist's face really big. Who wanted that? Who said they wanted that? Like, I need you to be serious. Someone on the video was also saying that they like worked in making merch, and a lot of times like the labels reject the cooler stuff because they're like, people are just gonna buy whatever you sell. But like, that's so lame. Like, oh my god. Honestly, whenever you go to concerts, like there's always like, oh, the ones that people really want, the merch items that are actually cute, it's usually like 1 or 2 ones that are actually cute. Those sell out like immediately, and they're just left with whatever people didn't want. Like, would it not be better to make all stuff people would want? Like, I know that it's cheaper to just make kind of mediocre things and people will buy it, but oh my, like, people would get the, I feel like it wouldn't be that much more money to produce good merch. Like, it just gasps me every time. People make better merch on Etsy for like every artist that ever existed. It doesn't matter who it is. Go on Etsy and you will find better merch than what they have. Because why is there no subtle merch? Why can't I get a shirt that hints at a song or has, like, I get it that like people wearing your stuff is also walking promotion, but like, I think it's smart to have like a couple of things that are like for the fan base instead of like meant for, I guess, like the general consumer. I think that's really smart. Like, Billie Eilish has that little, like the Bloche necklace. And so, but it's so recognizable as Billie Eilish. I think it's still promotional. Even if, like, that's cute, that little necklace. I used to have one. I used to have that necklace and I accidentally broke it and the little pendant fell off. So now I don't have one anymore. But, and I don't think they sell them anymore. But it was like, if you were in public, it's like the people who know. The people who know what that meant knew. And it was like a cool little thing. And like, I just feel like more people should do stuff like that where it's like more subtle. Or I just think, like, why is it just face on t-shirt? Why are we doing that? Like, I like to get something because I think it's like a souvenir for the concert. Some t-shirts, they won't even put the tour dates on the back. It's the same exact t-shirt that you would get at any tour date. Like, there's not even, I think, I saw someone talking about, like, again, like, even concert ticket, like the ticket stubs as being like souvenirs. It's hard, like we don't have like physical tickets anymore, so you don't really have like a souvenir from your concert besides like pictures that maybe you took, unless you buy like merch or something. But like even the merch, none of the merch is specific to your tour date a lot of the time, so it's like, damn, like what is this even for? Or when the merch is like not even tour exclusive, like you could just get it online. Okay, then what the hell's the point? Why am I like, what is the point? Like, I think it'd be so cool. Yes, it's gonna cost the artists more money, but here's what I would do. You know what? Here's my marketing strategy would be. Me personally, like my favorite merch that I've gotten from concerts has been like accessories. So like, or even like for artists that I like have been accessories. So like a hat, like a baseball cap. I feel like that's super cute and trendy. You could wear it as a normal thing. I want something that I can actually use. Like, yes, it is a, I guess, reminder of the concert, but I would like to wear it also. Like, if I spent $40 on a t-shirt, let me not even get into the prices. If I spent $40 on a t-shirt, girl, I'm wearing the fucking t-shirt. Like, what is wrong with you? So if you're gonna charge me $40 for a t-shirt, you better make it not ugly. Like, oh my god. Like, one thing I thought was really cool with Olivia Rodrigo's merch, she did like the Guts rings that she's wearing on the cover. Genius. That's genius. And people wear rings. Like, you can actually use them. I'm guessing they don't tarnish. Like, I'm guessing that they're pretty good quality rings. I would do baby tee galore. Baby tees are so cute. Literally, get a baby tee, put some song lyrics on it, and I will purchase it. Like, why can't you just make it look normal? Like, even a t-shirt. You can make a t-shirt look cool. T-shirts don't have to be ugly. I don't know where the merch teams got that idea. Even if you wanted to do something like related to the album, you can't give me the track list. Oh, the track list is on the back of the shirt, and like, I don't know, maybe just a logo or something on the front. It has to be like a weird, largely printed just picture of the album that everyone's already seen. Like for Guts, here's the thing that they could do. I just thought of this right now. Do you know how I think Olivia Rodrigo has like a lot of the shirts that she's wearing in like on tour are just like these white tees with like random words on it. Same white tee, I spilled my guts in, leave a blank, let people write on it. Like that would be cute, I think. It's interactive, people can have fun with it, you can have other people write on your shirt. I think you could also have the blank like filled in for each city, but then you would have to make different shirts for every city. So anticipating that problem, make it a blank and let people fill it in themselves and write whatever they want on it, decorate however they want. I just think that would be cool because we don't have like things that are like, yeah, like tour stop specific. Like you used to be able to have like, you know, like, yeah, your ticket stubs, like people keep those as like a souvenir, and we don't, you know, now it's like Ticketmaster, everything's online, so you don't really have a physical copy of your ticket, and they used to look really cool. I would make like honorary like ticket stubs, I guess. Like, you know how sometimes sell them with stickers. Like sometimes people sell stickers. Just be like, yeah, you can get honorary ticket stub, $5. People would buy that, believe it or not. Literally, maybe not even $5. $3, girl. Or include it in a pack of stickers. That's $5. I would so buy that. Like, I think if you wanna hit someone over the head with promotion for a merch item, do the tote bag. Just put it on a tote bag, because a tote bag utility already surpasses really anything else. I'm like, oh, it's a tote bag. Like, I am gonna use tote bag, so I'm not gonna be as mad that you just slap the face of the album on it. But a shirt, a sweatshirt, and they're getting up there. They're getting up there in price. Every time I go to a concert, it's more and more dollars for that merch. Like, what do you mean? This is a t-shirt. What do you mean it's $40? A sweatshirt for $80? Oh, I wasn't aware of your game. When I went to Harry's concert, I got a black shirt that had Harry's face on it, and that was the most normal thing, believe it or not. That was Fine Line era. Y'all couldn't have picked an emoji for each song. Each in track order, emoji, 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 going down the shirt. Back of the shirt, track list. You couldn't have done that? Like, no, like, come on. Yeah, like someone commented that it's the labels, and they usually like reject kind of like more, just better just better merch ideas, just for the sake of like whatever's easier. But I'll be boxing people in that room. Like I think people like the things that are accessories that they can actually use, and it's somehow related to the album. For example, like when I went to the Renaissance tour, the thing that sold out, that was always sold out the fastest, was the heated fan, which makes sense. Like, people want to participate. Like, it's interactive, and I didn't get a fan because they sold out. So yeah, in conclusion, I think I can make all the merch better. Don't steal my ideas unless you pay me. If you pay me, then sure, girl. Use whatever you want. The fuck? Okay, fun fact about me: when I was a teenager, I was really sad, so I started writing songs. And then I've picked 7 of the songs, and I've created an entire world out of them. I mean, I have thought through every detail of the aesthetics, what a music video would look like, what order they would go in. So basically, like, the character, it's like a girl, it's me, but it's a character. You get it? You would follow her around the town, and there's 7 songs, because there's one for each of my teenage years, 13 through 19. You can do the math. There's 7 songs because they each represent a teenage year. And so basically, like, each song takes you to like a different place, corresponds to a different place in the town, but like she's also growing up as she goes through the town. And I made a PowerPoint with the aesthetics of the songs and one of my favorite lyrics from each of them. Would y'all like to see it? To this day, I know Halle Bailey was the perfect Little Mermaid casting, because that is a voice that a sea witch would go through all that to steal. You're telling me anybody else would have... I don't care who y'all had lined up. I don't care.
I originally wasn't going to make another video about this because honestly, it's not that big a deal. People say untrue and a little hurtful stuff about me all the time, but I don't appreciate the conversation swirling about me and my character, so let's unpack that. So recently I made a video talking about the shame and guilt that I felt in myself pertaining to my last relationship. I have on a pink hoodie if you want to go watch it. But in that video, I shared some words of advice that my mom gave to me, which is that I'm not a bad person for falling in love and for trying. And in that video, I said also that women shouldn't be shamed for being in relationships with guys who aren't that great. Not abusive, just not that great. And this creator cut a part of that video out and the caption that said, "You're not a disappointment to feminism because you fell in love," and has created this whole narrative about how I am a pick-me an anti-woman, and how I expect other women to be there to pick up the pieces because I failed in my relationship with somebody I shouldn't have been in a relationship with in the first place. And my thing is, you're absolutely right. No one owes you community and care. Women don't need to be there to pick up the pieces because your bad relationship inevitably fell apart. But what gets me is that A, that's not what happened to me. That's not what I was speaking on. And you don't know that because you don't know me. But B, and more importantly, that's not even what I was talking about. I was talking about the shame and guilt I felt in myself. I didn't say anything about my friends or seeking community. And that's because my friends are here. I have friends. I have a strong support network. I have a strong community. I'm a lucky one. But that's really not what I was talking about, and my words were completely removed from their context and conversation to paint me as an anti-feminist pick-me who just gives a million chances to awful men and have no grace for my sisters, in a video where I said we need to have more grace for my sisters. That being said, I don't think women deserve shame and belittlement and isolation regardless. I'm not saying, nor have I ever said, you have to be an amazing friend to your friend who keeps going back to the awful guy, because there is a need for boundary setting and for calling out your friends for not valuing themselves and for being that person and respecting yourself. But what I am saying is that as we work on decentering men, it is starting to come at the cost of belittling women who are in relationships that we ourselves wouldn't be in. For example, I saw a video of a woman the other day who was complaining about her husband not pumping her gas, and the comments were cruel. They were calling her stupid, that she had no self-worth, no self-value, that she just shouldn't complain because it's not like she's going to divorce him. Why would you all say those things about a stranger and a relationship you don't know because she just made one complaint? There's this rising idea that women have to have a no-tolerance policy and an infallible self-esteem and break their own hearts at the first red flag, or else they are not worthy of our care and support. And I internalized that, and I shouldn't have. And the video was about me needing to not internalize that and also us not needing to place that on each other. There is space between a call out and a call in, and y'all have jumped all the way to calling names. And this creator took a video where I was unpacking that shame and guilt within myself and used it to call me a pick-me who shames women. Now I have people in my comments saying, again, hurtful things like I don't deserve my pregnancy, that nobody cares, that I've condemned my baby to a lifetime of suffering, that I don't care about women, that I encourage them to stay in awful relationships, that it's all my fault that my friends left me when my friends are right here. And that just reinforces my original point, which is what I was talking about. Not this idea that women have to be there to pick up the pieces for each other, but that y'all are really mean to people you don't know for no real reason besides the fact that they got in a relationship you wouldn't be in. Because to y'all's knowledge and to this creator's knowledge, all that happened is that I was in a relationship for too long, and my comments look like that now. There's this assumption that I feel entitled to companionship and support that apparently I don't deserve just because my relationship ended. And that's not even the conversation that I was having. And I will not sit here and let my reputation be low-key kind of slandered on just because my conversation that I was having was removed from its context. So much so that I have people saying I'm encouraging women to stay in toxic, abusive relationships when I said in the video, not abusive men. And that part got cut out. I don't know this creator, so I tried not to speak on this creator, but she was right. I got annoyed she didn't tag me. She got annoyed I didn't tag her, so I'm tagging her now. I don't know what she or the rest of you are going through, and I'm very, very sorry if your friends dropped you like a hot potato for a boy and then expected you to pick up the pieces. That's genuinely unfair, but it is also unfair that you all feel so entitled to pick and choose segments from a stranger's life to create a false narrative about them for no real reason than besides it might help you process what you've got going on. I've had to fight my own demons and live with my own choices and come to my peace as best I can. And I highly suggest we all start doing the same and give each other a little more grace, especially women giving grace to other women. I'm saying this with all due respect, but I have to know what y'all feel like you have to gain when you leave comments like this on a pregnant woman's post, especially someone who is 6 months pregnant like me. Like, y'all are like, oh, did you not consider that you're condemning your baby to a lifetime of being tortured and tormented and traumatized? Don't you see how awful the world is? I can't believe you bring a child into this. What do you want me to do? What should my next step be at this stage? Like, I just feel like y'all would not come up to a stranger in real life, a pregnant stranger, and say this to their face. So I do not know why y'all feel so comfortable saying it to mine. Like, I hear what you all are saying. I understand your perspectives. But trust and believe I did not take into account internet strangers' thoughts and opinions when deciding what to do with my own body. And I really just don't understand what these well-intentioned comments are supposed to do. Like, you riddle me this. Do you see how awful the world is? Do you see how awful the world is? I can't even enjoy my pregnancy in peace. I have people constantly reminding me how awful the world is, even though I make content about how awful the world is. Like, y'all just not want me to be happy? Do y'all just want people to suffer? People who made a choice you wouldn't make, to really sit and dwell on how awful and bad people they are, to bring a child into this? Like, what? Y'all want to see me cry? Is that what you want? Y'all want to see a pregnant lady cry? Because you're winning. Creator cut a part of that video out and the caption that said, "You're not a disappointment to feminism because I'm making this video and then I'm going to bed, and you, dear creator, can continue to argue with me and try to disparage me and put me down for a reason that I don't understand, because honestly, I don't know what I did to you." I made a video talking about my experiences with shame and guilt and stigma in the wake of my relationship ending and what that meant for me, and you stitched that video, took out a minute and a half worth of content to paint me as a pick-me and anti-feminist. Why? I do not know. But I will tell you this, is that we agree in some aspects here. Decentering men is a good thing. If you looked on the rest of my profile or even the next post I made, you would see that I made a post saying just that. You don't have to be there to pick up the pieces of your friend's less than ideal relationship every time it falls apart, especially if your friend keeps going back. And I do mean less than ideal and not abusive, because those two things are different, and I would know. Setting up boundaries is good. Decentering men is important. I don't know where we got lost there. But I will maintain that women do not deserve shame and guilt and stigma for falling in love or being in love or choosing in love or whatever rhetoric floats your boat. But I will say that women do not deserve shame and stigma and guilt for falling in love or being in love or choosing love or whatever rhetoric floats your boat, because no one shows their reddest flag on the first date. Usually it comes after you've fallen in love or whatever, gotten comfortable. And at that point, people do want to try to make their relationship work. It's the human thing to do. To leave, to break your own heart, which is an unpleasant experience, and we got to stop acting like it's not, because if it wasn't, y'all wouldn't have half your music, half your literature, or half your TV. But to break your own heart does mean you have to have an incredibly high self-esteem, an incredibly solid perception of the world, and an incredibly strong support system. And if you don't have those things, there's a good chance you're not leaving on the first strike. And I will not shame women for that. And I'm noticing a trend, and just because it did not happen to you does not mean it's not happening. It is happening to me, a person who, again, does not know you, and it is happening to other people online. But just because you find yourself in that scenario, it doesn't mean you deserve the shame that you might be receiving. You referenced, that I referenced, the woman who had to pump her own gas and was complaining about it and how her husband didn't get out and help her. And you're like, oh, you left out the critical detail that she's 9 months pregnant. You're right, I did. My bad, because that reinforces my point, is that the comment section on a post by a woman who is 9 months pregnant was filled with disparaging, demeaning comments, calling her an idiot, calling her stupid, saying she had no self-worth, saying that they didn't need to be there to pick up the pieces for her when her relationship inevitably falls apart. Why would they say that to her? That's no better than the husband who's not helping her. She doesn't deserve that shame just because she's not in that relationship. And what's she supposed to do? Leave him at 9 months pregnant? But they treated her like that in the name of decentering men. And that's what I meant by toxic. Just that. Not the idea of decentering men. Just that behavior. That's not actually about decentering men, but it's about spewing the same vile rhetoric that men spew towards women. It's not all that productive. And when I was receiving that, and as I still receive that, I was internalizing that. I felt like I was going to be a bad mom, because I'm also 6 months pregnant. But I felt like I was going to be a bad mom, and that I'm a bad person and a disappointment to feminism and all this other stuff. And my mom said, are you? Because all you did is fall in love and try your best in a relationship that didn't work out. And she's right. And I spread those words of wisdom for me and support for me to others. And you took that out and called me a pick-me, said that you had to take me to task. Someone who doesn't know me or anything about me felt entitled and felt like they just needed to serve me and belittle me as a lesson to teach me something. I don't even know you. And that's what I mean by toxic and harmful, is that in the name of feminism, you didn't give me any grace. You keep saying that I need to give the same grace I keep giving all these men. I'm the one giving grace here. You're the one taking women you don't know to task. And you're right, you don't fail feminism when you fall in love or decide to be in love or whatever and succeed. The people you keep citing, oh, well, there are lots of women in happy relationships, happy ones. But what about the ones who are in less than happy, neutral, 50-50, 40-60? What about them? They're failures, and y'all are quick to shame them. And I would know that because I'm sitting here. That pregnant lady who had to pump her own gas is sitting here. All the other people who have experienced hate comments from strangers online are sitting here. Y'all don't know us in real life. You're not setting up boundaries with us in real life. You're just being mean in the name of feminism. And that's not okay. But more than anything, You misquoted me. You took out 1.5 minutes of my video, sent people to be cruel to me in my comment section, in my DMs, in my friends' DMs, in my friends' comment sections, and then had the gall to be like, okay, but you started it. Your followers don't even know my name. They call me Jasmine. You sent the wolves after me. For what? I don't think women who set up boundaries for themselves are villains. I don't think women who decenter men are villains. I am one of those women. But I also don't think women should deserve shame and stigma for trying their best in a relationship and it just not working out. I don't. And if that makes me the villain in your eyes, if that makes me a pick me, I don't know who's gonna pick me. Because so far, I haven't found him. But whoever it is gonna pick me, whatever great anti-feminist I am, okay. If that's what you need from me, for clout, for clicks, for views, just to feel good about yourself, whatever it is you need, you can have it. But I'm secure in myself. I don't think women deserve shame for their relationships. Whether they succeed, whether they fail, whether they're in them, whether they're decentering men, I don't think women deserve shame, period. And I'm not going to internalize that for myself, no matter how hard you or anybody else tries. Have a good night. It is 1:21 in the morning. Can y'all leave me alone? What is it? I am not a representation of the Black community. I'm sorry I let you all down so much by making a choice with my body and being happy with it. I'm so sorry. That is so disappointing to our community. Are you happy now? I've apologized for my joy and my choices and for loving my kid. Can y'all lay off? God. I'm sorry. This I will apologize for. So the other day I made a post saying that we need to decenter men from the pregnancy conversation, and the fact that my child's father is a loser doesn't matter. And while I mean what I said in sentiment behind that, I said it in the wrong way and I hurt people, and I'm sorry. When people found out that I was pregnant and single, there was a lot of vitriol and judgment of me that I didn't appreciate. One person even went so far as to say, well, why would I want to have a baby with loser DNA? And I don't appreciate my unborn child being called a loser, and I took that really personally. And so I said we need to decenter men from the pregnancy conversation, not because men shouldn't be a part of it, but because they are literally the center of it. In conversations about my baby and conversations about other people's baby, I see a lot of, oh, well, what about the husband? Well, what about the man? Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And it's never about the couple themselves. It's never about resources for the kid or the access to support that they have. It's always, well, what about the dad? You're condemning your baby to a lifetime of misery because the dad isn't there. And it felt unfair that all of my decisions and decisions I made for my child and our future were contingent on a man just never being a loser or never changing his mind, which sadly does happen. Because I knew the decisions that I made when it came to having my child. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter. That's not something that I factored in. I crunched the numbers, I made spreadsheets, I talked to my therapist, I talked to my really amazing support network, and I made a plan that included him and didn't include him, so that no matter what he did, I knew I was good. And that is where I made my choice from. And that is when I was like, it doesn't matter what he does, because for me, it didn't matter. I'm going to give my child a good life regardless. If it's the last thing I do, if that is my last breath, is making sure that my child is safe and well taken care of, then that is my purpose now. And so to have all that contingent on a man being a loser or not, felt like we were having conversations about choice centered around a man again. And I was just like, he doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I shouldn't have said that. I should have taken the time to phrase it differently. I shouldn't have let my frustrations get the better of me. That was my bad. And I'm sorry, because it does matter. Having parents who don't support you and don't care for you and don't treat you with this respect and decency you deserve is awful. And I shouldn't have demeaned that or belittled that by saying that that other parent doesn't matter. Having a bad parent or two bad parents is awful. It does matter. But also, people are not 100% in control of their circumstances. And it doesn't mean that we should belittle and disparage the parent who stayed and the parent who cares and the parent who loves and the parent who tries. And that is what was happening to me. And I took that in the wrong way. And for that, I am sorry. Not the rest. I think I was fair in where I came from, but my execution was wrong. And for that, I'm really sorry.
Penelope Featherington is not a girl's girl, and I honestly think that's one of the reasons why I'm not as excited.
First of all, no hate to the original creator whatsoever. I think having different opinions in this space talking about media is what makes discourse fun and interesting. But I really want to push back on her sentiment that Penelope Featherington is a villain, because I feel like to describe her that way really does not take her positionality and her family into account, and also just greatly underscores what a villain is supposed to be. Yes, Penelope is imperfect. Yes, Penelope makes some bad decisions, and truthfully, I would not consider Penelope to be one of my favorite characters in Bridgerton. Just because she's flaw doesn't make her a villain. I feel like to really understand why Penelope does the things that she does, it's important to understand her positionality within this society. I feel like the original creator greatly underscores the Featheringtons' position relative to families like the Bridgerton, where it's kind of just like, oh, they're like a little bit less privileged than the Bridgertons, but I would argue that they are greatly less privileged. Penelope grows up in a household where her mother doesn't really see her and is not really supportive of her, versus her best friend Eloise, who is allowed to have another season of not coming out because she's like, hey mom, I'm not ready, and Violet's like, yeah, for sure, like take your time, babe. Penelope doesn't have that, and nor does she have financial security. Her father gambles away all of the family's money and then he kicks the can. In the society in which Bridgerton exists, when you have no money and you also have no man of the house, you effectively don't really have any options because women can't inherit, and that's why they have this random male relative that moves in with them in season 2 who is going to essentially take their home and take everything that they have. And I think from season 1 it is very obvious that the Featherington situation, as far as the daughters garnering decent matches that will help them economically, is kind of fraught because they are the butt of the joke of the ton for having tacky style, for having 3 daughters that are out in society and none of them being married, and for having daughters that are less conventionally attractive. Privilege also plays a big role in why Penelope is the way she is and does the things that she does. She says to Eloise that not everybody is a pretty Bridgerton. And that's not me saying that everything she wrote in Lady Whistledown was a good thing to do, but also when you're in a society where you are just consistently disadvantaged because you just don't have the looks, you don't have the family name, you don't have the money, like, what are you going to do? And truthfully, all of that gossip would have gotten around anyways, whether Penelope published it in Lady Whistledown or not.
I wonder to myself how JoJo Siwa managed to gain notoriety as a dancer when her choreography is as bad as it is in the new music video. I danced for 3 years, and while my experience being on a dance team may be minimal compared to some others, there were so many girls on my team who had just significantly more technical skill than I've ever seen JoJo Siwa demonstrate. Especially when it comes to like the flow of her movements and her footwork. She dances like she's reading aloud and everything is the same pitch and it's a little bit choppy. Instead of her dance being like a sentence, each move is just an individual random word. Not only that, but a lot of the choreography just doesn't really make sense for the lyrics she's singing. A lot of the choreography did make a lot more sense considering it was in the water, but it's like I can hear the rehearsals she was doing for this dance just going hit, 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 hit for every single beat because every single move had to be hit with the same fervor. And 5, 6, 7, 8, thrust, thrust, thrust.
Y'all are being too mean to JoJo Siwa.
As much as I do sympathize with JoJo Siwa because she was a child who grew up in the spotlight, I don't think most people who are critiquing her right now are being too mean to her. And that's not to say there are not people who don't take it too far, because there have been people throughout the years who have taken the bullying of JoJo Siwa way too far. There's a difference between bullying somebody for something they can't control and critiquing somebody for things that they absolutely can control. Since all of this Karma music video stuff has come out, almost nobody has been talking about the XOMG pop scandal that broke right before she started promoting this album. I can sympathize that JoJo Siwa was somebody who grew up having their talents exploited, who grew up having to make a salary to support the adults in her life who depended on her for their income. And I can certainly sympathize with the fact that it would have a lasting impact on her psyche. I do not sympathize with her still being friends with known predators, like James Charles and Colleen Ballinger, and defending them on Howie Mandel's podcast. I do not sympathize with her continuing the same cycle of trauma that she went through under Abby Lee Miller by doing the same exact thing to the girls at XOMG Pop. I'm not going to look past the fact that a girl who was under her jurisdiction was made to continue dancing even though she had a medical emergency because of her spina bifida and was bleeding through her belly button. I would also probably be a lot more sympathetic to this whole situation if JoJo Siwa did not make herself into a spectacle everywhere she goes by driving around a car that's covered in her face. Not only am I morbidly fascinated by how embarrassing that is to do to yourself, but also you shouldn't be surprised once people start talking about how they've been seeing you cutting people off in traffic and texting and driving and going to the adult shop. When you announce your presence everywhere you go, everybody is going to be looking at you and observing every single thing you do, which means there is going to be significantly more critiques thrown your way. I think people are also just really fed up with this complete lack of authenticity that JoJo Siwa has in her public persona, because she's trying to separate herself from all of this XOMG Pop stuff by appealing to an older audience who might not know about it. But if XOMG Pop had actually been successful the way that she wanted it to, she would not have done this rebrand. Like, if she had actually built a successful dance group of young girls, she would be in JoJo Hyperdrive right now. But it didn't work, and so she did a shitty rebrand, and now everybody's talking about it. And by trying to alienate herself from her young audience by marketing herself as a bad girl, the only things people are going to be talking about are the bad things that she's done that make her a bad girl. If she had had a more raw and authentic and personable rebrand, where she talks candidly about the mistakes she's made growing up in the spotlight, her blind spots as somebody who grew up being exploited, if she talked about the things that she wanted to change or see change in the dance world to make it a more welcoming and accepting place, if she had turned her rebrand into advocacy for young queer kids instead of whatever it is she's promoting right now, anything would be better than what she's doing right now. But I don't think we're being too mean. I'm so happy that the fact that JoJo Siwa faked a pregnancy on Snapchat for several months is finally being talked about, because I was watching it all unfold in real time on Snapchat and nobody was saying anything about it, and I thought I was going insane. I'm still so baffled by this entire ordeal, and I know it was just because she needed to get engagement on Snapchat because that's like one of her streams of income, but this is like one of the most tone-deaf things I've ever seen somebody do on social media. It was so creepy. Like, I think she donated the baby clothes that she purchased, but like, she was fully trying to convince people that she was with child for some reason. Like, this is what she decided would do numbers on Snapchat. And like, not only is this is just creepy. Like, if Glee taught us anything, it should be that faking a pregnancy is something that people don't do if they're of sound mind and sound spirit. But it was also just so insensitive. Like, it felt like she was making fun of expectant mothers or something. And there was a point past which people could really tell if it was like a joke, because she'd been doing the bit for so long. People were like, are you actually pregnant? Like, what is the purpose of this? Who finds this funny? Who is the intended audience for this? And it is at that point that I was like, JoJo Siwa is the target audience for JoJo Siwa. She has the J-Lo disease. I'm gonna need a JoJo J-Lo collab. They can call it JoLo. Lojo, if J-Lo wants to have her name be first. They could go on tour together to promote their albums and then bring Meghan Trainor out on stage to sing while they lip sync along to her.
I'm so glad someone finally said it. Y'all don't care about women. Y'all want to bring back shame. I've said this the whole time, and people have been like, is it shame or are they trying to help? No, it is admittedly shame. We want to shame women for being weak women. We want to shame women for being bad so that we can shame them into submission, acting the way that we think they should act. And historically, shame very rarely works. Making people feel bad is not a quick way to get them to do what you want. But in the realm of bad, toxic, and even abusive relationships, shame will backfire every single time. If someone is in a relationship where they're made to feel bad about themselves, and then that person looks outwards for community, and the community says, no, you should feel bad about yourself. No, you do suck. No, you are worthless. Then they internalize that. They don't seek better for themselves. They feel like they deserve every awful thing that happens to them, and they don't leave, and they don't seek better. If anything, shame leads to isolation and silencing. No one is going to be honest and vulnerable about what they're going through if they know that in response they're going to be met with judgment and shame. And that shatters the window open for these men to take advantage of this and to perpetuate the harm that they're doing. And I know you think these women are just so weak-willed and it could just never be you, and maybe it will never be you, but it will probably be someone that you know. Because in the United States, 1 out of every 4 women experiences DV at some point in her lifetime, and that's abuse, not a bad relationship. Abuse. And if you're Black, that number is 1 in 3. That is 33% of the people. 33. If anything, this is using feminism and the care of a child to repackage misogyny. Women are weak and therefore should be shamed into doing what I think is best. And then you use the idea of setting boundaries to just relive your glory days as a mean girl at the lunch table. I don't think you love yourself enough, and so you can't be in community with other women. It sounds a lot like you don't meet my standards, and therefore you can't sit with us. And that's cool, but that is exactly what mean girls do. That's not setting a boundary. All that to say, you don't use shame as a learning tool. Y'all use it as a way to bully people that you see as lesser. And honestly, that's kind of embarrassing. But at least you're being honest about it. Please stop saying that you're so concerned with the well-being of my child or the well-being of children born in situations like mine, because at this point, it's disingenuous. If you didn't know, I'm a professor, and one of the courses I've taught is creative writing, which involves a lot of workshop, a lot of peer review, a lot of feedback. One of my biggest things is that feedback without support or guidance isn't feedback, it's just judgment. As in, if you don't like something in somebody's paper or in somebody's work, you can't just say, oh, well, that's bad. Because that doesn't help them at all in the long run. It doesn't show that you care about their work. You're just tearing them down. That same logic is applied here. Everybody is all concerned about the well-being of these children in these single mom households. And yet no one offers care and support afterwards. They're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so concerned. They have a parent like you. And that parent, like me, is oftentimes someone who genuinely cares about the well-being of their child and is trying to do their best in a situation that just isn't ideal. But all of this concern never comes with access to a helpline or a tip donation or even a kind comment that just says, I'm here in your corner and I just want to make sure that the two of you or even the baby is okay. It just comes as a comment, oh, I'm so concerned that your child has a parent like you born in this situation. Are you concerned? Or are you leaving judgment under the guise of concern? Are you giving feedback without guidance or support? Because that's not feedback, that's judgment. Concern implies a certain level of care. It means that you are engaged. It means that you are supportive in at least some degree, and it means that you are at least somewhat aware of a problem. I don't see half of this concern expressed for all of the women in any of the countless crises going on in the world right now. I don't see half of this concern for the children in Congo who are literally being sold into slavery so that we can have cell phones. I don't see this concern for the 1 out of every 10 children in Palestine a day that loses a limb or two without anesthesia. I don't see this concern for the women in Sudan who are being raped on astronomical proportions. Instead, what I see is a lot of concern about children who are being born in situations that you wouldn't have had children in, but children who are very much loved and very much supported. And the problem at hand is that you wouldn't have done it that way. And is that really concern? Or is that just judgment? It's prom season. I know it's exciting. The cute dresses at the store, the couples outfits, little transitions. But grown folk, I want to remind y'all, it really isn't our business. And before y'all get upset, I'm not saying don't uplift these babies. I'm not saying don't engage. I'm just saying all them judgy comments and jokes we as grown-ups like to make every year, let's not. I know that we, grown folk included, think that just because it's online means that it is open season for our commentary and thoughts, no matter how mean or judgmental or harsh they might come across. And while no one can seem to deter y'all in this era of the mean girl, please, please, please do not do that to these impressionable teenagers that really don't need your input, especially since you don't know most of them. I don't care if that dress is ugly, if it don't fit right, if it's too revealing, if it's too churchy, if it's got too many ruffles or not enough or whatever you think you need to say. If it's not kind, zip it. If anyone deserves the right to express themselves creatively and freely, it's these teenagers. We did not have this burden when we were in high school, so let's not place this burden on them just because it's here. So if you're one of those people who, when we talk about prom in high school, you have to think for more than like 5 seconds on what year that was, let's keep our judgment to ourselves, or at least in our own little small peer groups, because they don't need to hear it. And besides, teenagers these days are harsh enough, so let's not get into that. And if you happen to be a teenager who sees this, be nice to each other, but go have fun. You look so cute. Be safe. Bye. Just because something is normal doesn't mean that it's good or acceptable. It just means that it's frequent or commonplace. And I think once we take like the connotation off the word normal, we can start to address scenarios that are normal or normalized or normalizing with the nuance that they deserve. Like I've heard it before, but my doctor said it to me the other day and it really sank in that normal doesn't mean good. It just means that you're not alone in the experience regardless. And she was talking about how I get dizzy and lightheaded and almost pass out at the drop of a hat ever since I got pregnant and how that's pretty normal for pregnant people. But then she was like, but it doesn't mean it's good and it doesn't mean we can just let you suffer like that. It just means that you're not alone and it's a pretty common experience. And then she gave me some tips to cope with it and it was great all the way around. Like the other day I was talking about how teenagers are actually active and like it is what it is. And somebody was in the comments like, oh, so we should just let them do it whenever, wherever, and it's a good thing and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it is neither good nor bad. It is a reality that we live in. And the minute we accept that, we can start providing like tools and resources and support and education. And sometimes normalizing something can be good, like it takes off social stigma and judgment and all that kind of stuff. Like if we normalize boundary setting with loved ones, we won't feel bad every single time we want to set a boundary and we'll just do it and everyone will be happier. That's a good thing. But in general, we should like take off the connotation of the word normalize and how we've like associated with good and just accept it as the neutral word it is. Just common. And I think we'd go places. April 5th was International Day of the Palestinian Child, and so here are some information you need to know about how this genocide is impacting children. Since October 7th, anywhere from 13 to 15,000 children have been martyred. That number is impossible to get an accurate count of because so many are lost beneath the rubble. 44% of the people unalived by the IOF at this point have been children. Over 2 million people in Gaza have been displaced, including 900,000 children. And if you're wondering why so many children have been displaced and why so many children have been unalived, it's because almost half of the population in Gaza are children. At least 27 children have been unalived by starvation as the IOF intentionally is forcing famine on the land. The IOF has arrested almost 500 children in the West Bank alone. Over 17,000 Palestinian children fall under the category of WCNSF, an acronym that means Wounded Child No Surviving Family. Over 13,000 Palestinian children are traveling the Gaza Strip completely unaccompanied by an adult. And over 10 children a day lose one or both of their limbs with no access to anesthesia or medical care because the IOF is deliberately attacking hospitals. It's been over 180 days since this all started, and I know we have short attention spans, but we cannot lose focus. Do not stop doing all of the things we've been doing for the last 180 days. Continue boycotting, continue pressuring your legislatures, continue to boost and uplift these voices, send funds when you can, anytime that you can, repost stories, share, join Operation Olive Branch, do anything, everything you can to help all of these people, all of these children in this scenario. No child deserves to live this way.
Fun fact about me, when I was a teenager, I was really sad, so I started writing songs. And I've picked 7 of them, and they all represent one of my teenage years, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Okay, let me get you guys into the concept first, right? So the place is called Puppet Town. It will make sense in a second. But basically, like, you go through the town with all these songs. Like, the songs are correlated to a place in the town. And basically, you would be following, like, a girl, a character, me, but like a character me. I haven't named her yet. Actually, that's a lie. I have named her, but she wouldn't be named originally. That's important. You basically like follow her through the town, but it's also about like me growing up. So like each song represents an age, and like she grows up as you go through the town. Anyways, so I'm gonna give y'all the breakdown on 5 of the songs because I think it's fun and silly. Okay, boom. Track 1, Puppet Town. This one's about my hometown. I would say it's for people who the things that you could do for fun were go to Target and sit in a parking lot. Occasionally go to Sonic, perhaps. But basically, it's just about suburbia and conformity and me trying to capture like the monotony of what suburbia is. It was also about like this one friend group that I do in high school that like individually, they were all like the regular individual people, and then you would put them together and they would all like morph into this one unified identity. And that just seems like a metaphor for suburbia. And then so it's Puppet Town because like puppets on a string, like a marionette. Yeah. Oh, I also added a lyric for each song. So this one is marching till we're too old, fighting over fool's gold. What a grand performance. Won't you come and join us? This is literally a Sonic drive-thru. Okay, track 2, No Heartbreak at 17. That's about me being really sad and no one ever liking me in high school. Never had a boyfriend growing up. No one really liked me. I was also like a black girl in a very white area. And it's kind of about just like watching all these movies and like these rom-coms and being like, this will literally never happen to me. This one's very much for the girlies that like People Watching by Conan Gray. And also the normal girl girlies and the best American girl girlies. This is one of my favorite ones because I think it's an emotion that I've been trying to express for so long. And like there's a part where it gets angry, and I like when women are mad. One of my favorite lyrics from the bridge is, I don't want your fucking pity, just want to know what it's like to feel pretty. And the lyric is feel and not be for a reason. But yeah, it's basically just about not having a relationship, not having that like high school teen romance, whatever. This is the vibe. It's very blue to me. There's a drive-in because I felt like if there was a music video for it, it would be me at a drive-in and I'm watching a movie, but I'm playing and it's just going to be a bunch of scenes of like famous scenes from rom-coms, but I'm playing every girl. That's what I would do. But it's like I'm in the audience watching a movie as well as being in that. You get it. The lyric I chose for this one was, oh, this one's sad. This lyric is, if I'm Juliet, it's the end of the act. Seems like my time's run out. Would I not be dead by now? Which, like, real. But yeah, it's just about not having that experience and also about being afraid to have that experience because I worry that I will not do well. Okay, track 3, Siren. These are not necessarily in a specific order except for one part, but anyway. It's just about feeling like you ruin everything. That's literally what the whole song's about. But it's really actually really fucking sad, but it's really upbeat. So you can't even tell. It sounds so lovely and light and la la la. And another thing about me is I'm going to make a Greek mythology reference. Like, it is going to happen, hence the sirens. And I also just thought it would be interesting to try to write a song that was from the perspective of a siren. And like the whole song is basically like her apologizing for the way that she is, but it's just like her nature and there's nothing that she can do to change it. But yeah, gag. Anyways, it's actually like a pretty simple song, but like when you think about it, I'm like, oh, it's actually like really sad. And the lyrics I included were, ignore the storm clouds, please don't mind all the rocks, give me a second, I'll fix the mess that I caused. And we have Halle Bailey as Ariel, and also my name is Ariel. So yeah. Okay, next we have a song called Do You Think My Friends Can Fly? And it has to go after Siren because these songs bleed into each other. But yeah, so basically I wanted to write a friend love song, but I just wanted it to be fun and different. It's also like kind of to worry about like moving away, like to college. And I was like, what about my friends? Like, am I not gonna have my friends anymore? But basically the idea is that the person, okay, so in my brain there is like a singular like character person going through all of these songs in this town. So basically the idea is that like this person's friends are like angels, or like they can fly or whatever, but this person has no wings and they cannot fly, so they are like desperately trying to make themselves wings so that they can fly. But their other fear is also that like if their friends have wings they can leave them. But yeah, basically this person's trying to make wings and it doesn't work, and there's a twist, but I'm not gonna tell it to you. But yeah, I wanted to make a friend love song and I also wanted to make it weird. So, but yeah, this is the vibe. And the lyric is, do you think my friends can fly? I know they had wings in another life, which is the first chorus lyric. Okay, track 5, Sycamore. The word sycamore actually only appears in that song one singular time, and it doesn't make sense for me to call it that at all, but that's just what I refer to it as in my brain. Long story short about this song, I met a boy when I was 19 and it was bad. It ended bad. Personally, I think that's a thing that nobody should ever do. If you're 19, don't talk to a man ever. If you saw the lyrics though, you would be much more filled in. But the lyric that the title comes from is, sometime past dusk, watch your car drive down Sycamore Street. Won't you tell me what could be more sick than the way you left me? Sycamore Street's not a real place. It might be a real place actually. One of the cul-de-sacs in my hometown was like oaks, like types of trees. You know how they're all themed? It was types of trees. So there's a real Sycamore Street, but this did not occur actually on Sycamore Street. It sounded good. The song should probably be called Wish You Were Dead, which is the phrase that is repeated the most in the song. But this is the vibe. And then the other lyric I have is, how dare you talk about us in future tense when just for now was all you meant. So it's kind of sad, but it is to this day, I think the fastest song I've ever written. I literally, and for some reason I typed this out on Google Docs. I have like a book that I write these all in, and I didn't have it with me. And I was like, I need to write this down right now. So I did it on Google Docs, and you can see like the time stamps. I literally think this took me less than 20 minutes. But anyways, I'm just doing those 5. That's some of my lore. I think it's crazy that people are genuinely upset about a casting that's not real. It is a fan casting, and there's also, this movie doesn't like exist. It is not in production. Literally nothing, none of that is occurring. Like, there's a lot of people have just been talking about a live action Tangled because they're doing a lot of live action remakes in Disney. A live action Tangled movie has not been confirmed ever. So like all this outrage that these girls are being like, Rapunzel's being taken away from me. First of all, nothing happened to the current amount of Rapunzels that we already have. That's what really gets me. They're like, this is being taken away from me. Even if it was being made, that's just an additional Rapunzel. Like, what are you talking about? All the ones that exist right now still exist. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, what's really getting me is that this isn't even real. People, like, some of these girls are being outraged on the internet and acting like they've been robbed of their girlhood over a potential woman of color being cast as Rapunzel. They are mad at just the idea of it. It's not even real. Like, can you imagine getting that mad about something that doesn't even exist? It's not even, why are you mad? Who are you fighting right now? You're so angry that you can make an entire think piece about how you're being robbed of your blonde representation. Mind you, wigs exist. Also, how the hell were they gonna give someone 45-foot, 50-foot magical blonde hair if it wasn't a wig. Whoever's playing her has to wear a wig, girl. She also could still be blonde. And I saw people trying to do loopholes. They were like, oh, it's because she's not German. If they were talking about a white girl playing this role, you would have never been like, but is she German though? Like, y'all are just liars. And mind you, I know for a fact that even if they cast a white girl with brown hair, they would have been able to do the math in their brain. They'd be like, yeah, she's gonna wear a wig. She's gonna wear a wig or potentially dye her hair or whatever. But you're not mad about the hair. That is not what is upsetting. But yeah, I think the outrage against it is stupid because it's not real. And if you're like someone has magically long hair, it would make sense for that person to be South Asian. They're mowing the grass right outside my doors. And what really tickles my pickle is that they're like, she's not blonde, she's not blonde. Neither is Rapunzel. That's why the magic makes her hair blonde. Did you watch Tangled? Clearly you did not watch Tangled. As much as people obsess over that scene at the end where he cuts her hair and it turns brown, her hair is brown. The hair that comes out of her head is brown. It is blonde because of the magic flower. The magical properties of her hair make it blonde. She's not even naturally blonde. That's the gag. Because literally if someone's like, she's not blonde, I'd be like, yep, perfect. Neither is Rapunzel. Glad we're on the same page. Like, I think it would make perfect sense for her to be brown. Sorry. It makes a lot of sense. Sorry. Mind you, there's not even a live action Tangled movie happening, but if there was, I think it would make sense and it would be cool. And also like long, luscious, magical hair. And you're telling me that, like, come on.
Do you ever wonder why you never hear about Greta Thunberg anymore? She was Time's 2019 Person of the Year. This happened to her this weekend and we didn't hear a peep. It's because Greta started her journey as a climate activist, something that everybody can get behind because we all want the climate to be better. But doing that work led her to understand that capitalism is the root of all evil. And when she started speaking out against capitalism, all of a sudden we stopped hearing from Miss Girl. And then she became a very pro activist because she understands the relationship between colonialism, capitalism, the climate, and just being a normal, good fucking person. And then we really stopped hearing from Miss Girl. And I just think it's funny and so obvious the way that the powers that be will like applaud anyone who speaks out about the climate, but then once they start talking about what's actually causing the climate crisis, then no more speaker gigs for you, no more magazine covers. It's blatant and it's obvious, and if anything, it means all of us should be paying attention to what she's doing that much more because she's in it. She is doing the work.
Why did somebody in my comments just say that people of color, like making fan casts that include people of color for characters that might not typically be people of color is like, oh, they're trying to get a react. They were like, they're trying to get a reaction out of us. Like they just want us to respond, but we just want the character to look like da 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 da. Has it ever occurred to you that it actually has nothing to do with you? And in fact, people of color are also people and would also like to see themselves on a screen. Like the way that y'all are fighting tooth and nail to be like, you're taking this away from me. Imagine never having it. Imagine never even having it in the first place. You can't. Your brain literally cannot fathom ever watching a show and not seeing somebody that looks like you in it because it doesn't really happen. You can turn on probably any show, probably any movie, probably even any book and read about a character, see a character that looks like you. And the idea of someone making a version that other people can relate to is pissing you off so bad. Like you can't even like empathize for a second and be like, what if I never had any of these? In fact, it was such an odd comment because they were basically claiming that like, oh, like people of color are they're just claiming it's a fan cast, but really they just want white people to be angry. Or we are also people and have things that we would like to see on a television just as much as you. So yeah. And it especially gets me with the Disney princesses because it's primarily girls like not allowing other girls to have this experience. Like, oh my God, I remember when Little Mermaid came out, every video I saw of like a little black girl watching like Halle Bailey and be like, she looks at me, I would fucking cry, bro. And like, even if it is that personal to you, why do you not want other girls to be able to have that experience? That's the crazy part to me. Why do you need to gatekeep that so bad? I'm not gonna say it's the original video, but this dude was like, well, brands should be allowed to not make clothes for fat people because they just have a preference of what kind of brand they want to be, of what people they want in their da-da-da-da. Did you ever think of why they would have that preference though? Why do people say the word preference and then think that that means everything is okay? Why is it that the preference is very thin people? Let's think about that for a second. You don't pull a preference out of thin air. That always gets me. People are like, I just prefer da-da-da. Why? There's a reason that you prefer it, isn't there? There's something different about it, huh? And the people in the comments are trying to be like, it's not fat phobia, like it's just like marketing. No, it is fat phobia. That's why you prefer skinny people, because you don't like fat people. You a lot of times cannot choose if you're fat or not. I'm gonna be so dead ass with you right now. Some people have health issues that literally they cannot lose weight. Some people, medication makes you gain weight, autoimmune diseases. There's 1,000,001 reasons that people are fat. And even if it's just regular habits, why does that mean that you don't deserve clothes? Why does that mean that you're not a person? Why does that mean you can't wear anything cute? Like, what? Crazy take. Maybe fat people also want clothes that make them feel good. And there was like blatant fat phobia in his video, because he mentions how he used to be fat, and then he was like, yeah, the body wasn't biting. Like, he's like, I used to think that it was the companies and the stores, but really it was because my body didn't look good. So you just have internalized fat phobia, girl. And let's even assume that fat people are trying to lose weight, right? Since that's what y'all are always telling them to do. What clothes are they gonna wear in the meantime? Do they not deserve clothes in the like, what is that? Literally makes no sense. And people always try to come up with some bullshit excuse like, oh, it's about health. First of all, being underweight is severely worse for your health than being overweight. But y'all will cheer people on for starving themselves all the time, which causes irreversible damage a lot of times to your digestive system, your hormones, what else? Your bones, your teeth, your hair. Like, being underweight is very dangerous, but y'all don't care, and y'all don't go around telling underweight people they don't deserve to have anything. And like, that rhetoric right there is literally why people have eating disorders, because y'all come on the internet and say that the worst thing you could be in the world is fat. And oh, it's okay if you're sick as long as you're skinny, because y'all literally don't give a shit about people's health at all. That's a lie. And it extra pisses me off when they're trying to hide behind some other like, oh no, it's just like the company just wants. Why are we defending $1 billion corporations? Let's start there. Like, they will say anything before they're like, I just don't like fat people. But we know you just don't like fat people. Sorry, they're also people and also deserve clothes and things that they can use and that are made for them. Like, this is so, what? Preferences are not made out of thin air. They are reinforced and come from messages that we have in the media, in society, etc. They aren't just made up. We don't just prefer skinny people. The same way we don't just prefer white people. There's a whole, it's reinforced in every single thing we see. You can't just be like, I have a preference and there's nothing behind it, because there's always something behind it. Let me talk about Julie and the Phantoms, y'all. If you're like, Ariel, what's Julie and the Phantoms? Well, I'll tell you right now. That show, so good. I'm sorry, I literally don't give a fuck. You're like, that's a show for children and you're 22 years old, okay? The sky is blue. If we're just saying things. Like, if someone said, Ariel, who is one of the greatest directors of our time? If I say Kenny Ortega, they might burn me at the stake, but did I lie? Did I ever lie? Like, he's gonna cook up a dance number. He is gonna cook up some serious music like, oh, he don't play. Okay, let me give a synopsis. This is spoiler free. I'm gonna talk about spoilers later, but there'll be a warning, don't worry. So basically, oh my God, the plot is actually crazy now that I just thought about it. So this is actually gonna sound insane. So there's these 3 boys, right? And their names are Alex, Reggie, and Luke. And they're in a band called Sunset Curve. And they're about to play a huge gig at the Forum. Oh, also there's a fourth member. His name's Bobby. We don't really like Bobby, but we don't need to worry about that right now. Okay, so Luke is the lead singer and lead guitarist. Alex is the drummer and he's gay. And Reggie plays the bass. And what the fuck is his name? Bobby, he plays the other guitar girl. I don't know. He's kind of a flop. Like I said, we don't really care about him. Okay, this is about to get a little bit spoilery, but it's quite literally in the first 10 minutes of the first episode, girl. Like, so basically, before they are about to play their show, they go to eat street hot dogs, but it's only Alex, Luke, and Reggie that go to eat the street hot dogs, and then they fucking die. I'm not joking. Like, these are high school teenage boys, dead. Like, what a dark way to come out of the gate, honestly. They died from bad hot dogs, which is like, that's crazy lore. Like, I would hate if that was my lore. Cut to present day, right? The main character, her name is Julie Molina. She's little Latina girl. Little Latina sing-song girl. And she goes to like a performing arts kind of school, kind of like Hollywood Arts vibe. And she's a singer, but she doesn't really sing anymore. She stopped singing when her mom died. But they're like, girl, you have not been singing. Like, you can't just stay at the school and not sing. Like, you are in the school for singing, girl. Like, you have to sing, girl. And that girl got some pipes. She's got some pipes. She could sing a little tune. So Julie's got this room where she like plays the piano and stuff. It's just like, I don't know, her music practice room or whatever. And she finds an old box of her mom's stuff. And in it is a Sunset Curve t-shirt and their demo. And she plays the demo and they materialize into thin air. Yes, the 3 dead band boys, in fact, materialize into real life, girl. And do you know what? She's the only person who's ever had a normal reaction to this kind of thing, because she ran and got a cross because she was like, girl, there's demons in my house. Like, what? Okay, but then they get to talking, right? And basically the lore is that Sunset Curve, Luke, Alex, Reggie, Bobby's still alive, because remember, he did not eat those hot dogs, so he's still alive. Used to practice in like the room that is now Julie's like piano room or whatever. So originally they show up and they're like, where are our instruments? The fuck? Like, they're not realizing that they're dead, which is like, ooh. And then she looks them up and learns that they died years ago. But to them, like to the three boys, it's been like literally 10 minutes. So like in mind and appearance and body and everything, they're still like the exact same age they are when they died. However, like years have passed. So Bobby is now an adult. That's the last time I mentioned Bobby because I don't like him. So, okay, let's do a quick run back on the characters. All right, Julie, sing-song girl, present-day girl. Luke, dead, guitar, sleeveless shirt boy. Alex, blonde, drummer, gay. Reggie, bass. And he's a little bit dumb, but in a way that's very funny and silly. Well, yes. So basically, like, Julie has to like re-audition for the school or whatever, and then she like bombed it the first time. She just did not sing. She did not sing a single word, and then we're like, girl, we cannot keep you in the school. And then she was like, hang on, let me try again. And so later, I'm leaving out a lot of details, but I just need you to get the synopsis. Oh, also, again, the band is dead. But Julie can see them and nobody else can see them. So like her dad can't see them, her little brother can't see them, nobody can see them. But Julie like does this like makeup kind of concert in order to like re-audition for her school. And she starts like playing, and then like the boys materialize on stage and can be seen when they're playing music with her, which is like kind of gagged. Like, I was gagged, sorry. And the songs are good. The songs are fucking fire. So basically, like, yeah, the show progresses. And then, like, a whole bunch of other stuff happens. I could talk about specific things, but I don't want to put too many spoilers in case people wanted to watch it and they hadn't seen it yet. I'll do those in other videos. But yeah, like, literally, the boys are absolutely invisible because they're ghosts and they're dead. But they show up. Like, people can see them. Like, real life people who are alive, they call them lifers. The people who are alive can see them when they're playing music. So, like, the excuse that they come up with, because they're like, why did these boys just disappear the minute the music stops? And she's like, oh, so basically they're holograms, and everybody bought it. So, I mean, yeah. But, like, when I tell y'all, bangers. Banger after banger after banger after banger. Like, if it was real, I would listen to it. I listen to that soundtrack like crazy. I'm not joking to you right now. Edge of Great, finally free. Unset Emily, who cried? Who else cried? Oh my god. I'll talk about that later. I don't want to talk about it. It's so spoilery. I can't talk about it right now. Edge of Great guitar riff, that literally changed my life. I'm not even joking. That literally changed my life. I watched this freshman year of college. I'm now a senior in college. I have not stopped thinking about this show. I have not stopped thinking about that show. Me and my friend watched it freshman year, and then we proceeded to watch it 3 more times, the entire series through. I'm not joking. I'm not lying to you. As 18-year-olds, we did that. So yeah.
Hear me out. You could literally have a halo and descend from the gates of heaven, and somebody would still not like you. Right? I seen a tweet one time that said Victoria Monet has sinister energy. What? I've never seen her do anything but smile and speak in an angelic voice. So I say that to say that people who don't like you will forever not like you. Once you have an enemy, you have an enemy for life. You know what I'm saying? So wear what you want, stick up for yourself, stand on business, live the life that you want to live, because people that hate you are always going to hate you. It doesn't matter what you do. You can never change the mind of an op, right? You could donate all your funds to save world hunger and somebody would still find some negative shit to say about it. So live your life the way that you fucking want to, because the haters is gonna be here, baby, no matter what.
The idea of being resilient is so odd because it romanticizes and glamorizes survival. At the end of the day, in the face of atrocities, you get 2 options: sink or swim. And then when people inevitably swim because they want to survive, people are like, oh my gosh, you're so resilient. And after a certain point, this whole you're so resilient becomes dehumanizing. It takes away the fact that you are a person who is struggling, who doesn't want to be in the situation that they're in. As we're sitting on 186 days of the crisis in Palestine, I think people are just starting to write the Palestinians and especially Gazans off as exceptionally resilient people who are going to be okay at the end of the day. And I know 186 days is a long time, and we've seen some really horrible things, and I understand the human impulse to want to separate yourself or put that in a box or eventually just kind of move on, but we can't. My mutuals, and I'll tag her below, made an excellent video on this the other day about how Gazans don't want this, and this isn't who they are as a people. And despite decades of brutality, this situation is not normal. They don't want to live in tents. They don't want to suffer under these conditions. They don't want to get online and beg for money and show off the body parts of their loved ones in an attempt for human empathy. And they're not just some resilient group of people who are just gonna make it and are gonna keep making it and keep trucking. They are humans who are in need of our sympathy and care and don't want to be in this situation. I think about this idea of resiliency and being resilient, and how at this point it's almost an insult, because we're like, oh my gosh, you're so resilient and you're so strong, and I'm just so glad you're here, and all that's great and dandy, but why are we not investigating and unpacking the situations that are making people resilient? Why are we not unpacking and investigating and doing everything we can to keep Gazans from having to be so resilient? They're tough because they have to be. The other option is to just not survive. And we can't let that be normal for us from the comfort of over here and just write it off as they're so resilient, because that's just not fair.
Okay, Civil War is coming out this weekend, and I saw it at South by Southwest, so it's time to finally talk about it. I am going to come out and say it. I am an Alex Garland lover, defender, whatever you want to call it. I genuinely think this film is a horrifying masterpiece, and I think people are talking about all the wrong things leading up to the release of this film. The vast majority of the conversation has been about this map, and the fact that people think it's unrealistic, and the fact that people think that only a British man or a non-American could conceive of like these lines of division, like Texas and California having any kind of alliance seems ridiculous to Americans. I get that. But the thing is, this is a film about American violence made from an outside perspective. This is a film about the American violence that Americans have been shielded from for decades, for centuries. And what it would look like if Americans were suddenly exposed to the American imperialistic violence that we've inflicted on countless countries over the years. And I understand that, like, with our heightened political divide in this country, like, it's understandable that people go into a movie like this expecting to see, like, the roles that the Democrats and the Republicans would play and the way that that shakes out. But the truth is, taking a step back and looking at American foreign policy through a lens like this is so effective, because it challenges the very like core identity of what America is supposed to be. And even someone who grew up overseas for a portion of my life and has had like spent a lot of time deconstructing my identity as an American, some of the imagery in this movie was so viscerally upsetting, nauseating, and physically uncomfortable in a way that I think is really vital, especially when you look at the state of international politics right now, and the way that it doesn't matter if you fall on the left or the right in this country. We look at what our politicians are doing, and American foreign policy, and specifically the violence of American foreign policy, is nonpartisan in this country. This is an anti-war movie that brilliantly looks at war through the lens of journalism. And also, it's very introspective in considering what is the purpose of documenting these things, both in a literal journalistic way and in an artistic way. Like, this film, I think there's a lot of parallels to Killers of the Flower Moon in the way it questions, like, Alex Garland's role as the creator in films like this, and, like, the idea of journalistic integrity in and of itself. I think it's understandable, given Alex Garland's filmography, that I think a lot of people had very preconceived notions about what this was going to be. I mean, even the poster is like giving Independence Day. A lot of people went into this expecting it to be like high sci-fi, like, you know, very like fun to an extent, but exciting thrills. And it's definitely thrilling. There's definitely like high tension in a lot of scenes, but this film is an incredibly somber and bleak anti-war film. And honestly, I think it confronts American violence in a way that is going to be accessible for a lot of people, to help them consider things that they haven't really been able to contextualize before. I think it's actually super, super brilliant to put it in this like dystopian sci-fi setting, because I think it's really difficult for a lot of Americans to confront the reality of American international violence. And this is a package that I think is going to be accessible to people. Like, I honestly think that this film is going to be incredibly, incredibly important. And it's also just fucking gorgeous. Like, it's absolutely beautiful, like typical for Garland. It sounds incredible. The sound design is harrowing, and everyone gives an incredible performance. Kirsten Dunst, Kaylee Spenny, Wagner Moura, like it's honestly, I'm seeing it again tonight, and I can't wait, but I also might throw up. Like, it's one of my favorites of the year so far. I'm so sorry. I'm coming out as an Alex Garland like stan. I can't. And I think people are going to start looking at the rest of his filmography differently too. I gotta say, I think it's coming.
The reason your plus size clothing isn't selling is because your clothes are ugly as fuck. Y'all take the ugliest fabric known to man and make that shit a goddamn blouse. Nobody wants to wear that ugly ass shower curtain you call a shirt. And I'm being dead the fuck serious. And just because a girl got a little bit of meat on her, don't mean she wanna wear that shit either. And y'all do this shit on purpose so then y'all can use it as an excuse. Well, our plus size clothes don't really sell. I don't really know what the problem is. Yeah, because it's fucking hideous, bitch. If I'm gonna keep it a stack. Radical idea, but if you made the same clothes that you made for straight sizes and plus sizes, I don't know, maybe that revenue would be a little bit stronger. Maybe somebody will be willing to purchase and put their motherfucking card down, but nobody wants to wear a fucking leopard print blouse at the fresh age of 21. I'm sorry. Don't nobody want to have on zebra print and tropical island prints. And that's why you sustainable clothing bitches can kiss the crack of my black ass. And that's why I'll never in my life talk down on Fashion Nova, because when I was a big body Benz, please don't crash, they held me down. Y'all can say what y'all want about fast fashion. They hold the big girls down, but y'all skinny bitches don't give a fuck because it don't concern you. You can walk into any store and get anything you fucking want, and you don't give a fuck. Let me just go down to my local Goodwill and try to find some vintage Chanel in a 3X. Do y'all hear yourselves? Truly. If you wear a size 2, don't say shit to me about sustainable clothing. No shade. Well, all shade, actually.